All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Fantasy Life Week 3 of the NFL. Getting excited. I'm as your host, as always, the Big AC, and back off the couch here with us, Coach DACOSTA. Coach, how you doing? Welcome back on your vacation.
Hey, thanks, man. I really tried to join you from South Carolina, but the internet was just not, cooperating with me. But it turned out okay because I missed quite often and quite hard last week. So
Is that why you dress up every week to just make up the show up whenever you want, Hollywood? 1 week you're here, 1 week you're not. Come on, man.
I'll be here. I'll be here for the rest of the season. That's rest assured. Rest assured.
All right, coach. All right, coach. Let's talk about some hits and misses for the past week. If you want to lead us off, I don't know if you had any misses you wanted to talk about on air. Go ahead.
Yeah, I should just throw out there that I did say Doug Martin's going to have a monster first week. And he had 9 carries for 9 yards. I said he's going to score 2 touchdowns against Carolina. And yeah, that hopefully will be the worst advice I give all season. So that was a bad one. I did say Knicks was going to score off air, and he did in week 1. But hey, I didn't say it on air. But anyway, for week 3, James Jones is a guy that I thought was going to do well, and he's been a touchdown machine, just like he was in Green Bay. Last week, another double-digit fantasy performance. He's a machine, and against New England, I think he'll continue to hit for me. But so far, he's looking okay with a rookie quarterback.
He is really looking solid. I mean, this guy has been getting a lot of targets, a lot of receptions, a decent amount of yards, like 70, 90 yards both games, and no touchdowns. And which is kind of encouraging in a way because at least he's getting the production, at least he's getting the targets, you know. So I like that he's putting up the points regardless on whether or not he scores. Some fantasy players are really touchdown dependent, and this isn't the guy. This looks like your Kendall Wright type of guy that's going to get you the 14, 15 fantasy points whether he gets a touchdown or not.
But he did score last week, though. He did score.
Oh, he did. Okay, my mistake. He did score
It's all right.
last
It's all right.
week. Yeah. Coach, who else do you like this week?
Another guy. Well, who do I like this week, or do I hits from last week?
Yeah, hits from last week. So I'm sorry.
I also had Darren Sproles. This is a guy I've been praising
nice one, yeah.
since day one, Andy. And AC, let me tell you this, because Chip Kelly's offense in Oregon, if you remember back in the days of Jeremiah Johnson, LeGarrette Blount, then when Jonathan Stewart came in the picture with Jeremiah Johnson, and then when LeGarrette Blount was there with LaMichael James, he's a 2 running back guy. So the second he got Darren Sproles, don't sell high on Sproles right now. If you own him, keep him. He's going to keep putting up numbers, and he has the potential to really be a running back 1, believe it or not, even with Shady there. I don't think he'll be a running back 1, but hey, he has the potential. Trust me, with Chip Kelly, keep this player. Do not trade him.
Coach, how about some misses from last week? Any misses from last week?
Yeah, I might have had a couple. My boy Marcus Colston, Bagel City, not even after 100 yards.
The bagel.
He didn't have a single target. You know how hard it is not to get a target with Drew Brees? So that was a big miss for me. And I was all in like you on the Titans. The guy I believed in was Justin Hunter. 2 catches, 26 yards against Dallas. Seriously, come on, bro. How about you?
That's pretty bad. Really quick while we're talking about the Titans, what's going on with Delanie Walker? Like, is this the guy? Is this the new Antonio Gates? What's your thoughts on Delanie?
I don't really know. I don't really think so, to be honest with you. When he was in San Francisco a few years ago, he put up he had some production, and in Tennessee, he's Jake Locker's safety blanket a bit. But look at that Dallas defense. They're Swiss cheese. We talk about them pretty much every week. I feel like week 1, Vernon Davis had 2 scores and plenty of yardage for fantasy value. Last week was Delanie Walker. I think he's worth keeping. I think he's worth playing. I don't know if he's gonna put up Antonio Gates numbers for the season or anything like that. I think it was just an anomaly for the week, putting up the ridiculous numbers that he did.
Coach, don't worry. I had some hits and misses too. All right, let's talk about my good before my bad. Bobby Rainey. I mean, he filled in for Doug Martin last week. I was big on him, getting him as a waiver pickup. I had him ranked above, people like Alan Hearns, people like that, Forsett. I was really big on Bobby Rainey. I got him in a couple of leagues. I didn't start him last week because of how it played out and how I didn't find out till later that he wasn't playing. Mm-hmm. He had a great game, 144 on the yards. He had 3 catches, 2 for 30 yards. He's turning out to be a solid handcuff. Mm-hmm. Last night he played. looked absolutely awful, but he got some garbage time production, and it looks like his bread and butter. And if you look, the two times when he catches the ball in open space where he fumbled, it looked like he was actually doing okay in open field. So it looks like that's his bread and butter, is catching the ball and working in open field. He seems to be pretty good at that.
And that's how he scored in week 1 too, so I would have to agree with you.
Right. Mark Ingram too. I hated saying it on air that he was going to do well, and he certainly did. 11 rushes, 81 yards, and a touch, and he had 3 catches as well. Sucks that he hurt his hand. Like, it really looked like, wow, this is Mark Ingram's time to really show that he's going to be that feature back that he always said he could have been when he came out of Bama. But gosh, that's really awesome. Also, Larry Donnell, whatever you want to call him, he's been super solid. I'm throwing him in as my starter in one of my deeper leagues, man. I'm rolling with Donnell.
And you know what? Even though Eli is atrocious, he looks for him in the red zone. And, in fantasy, that's something that's just invaluable.
Also, good thing about your tight end is when you can't throw further than 10 yards accurately, your tight end is usually right there. So that works out for you. Coach, I was off on a couple of things. Let's first talk about Antonio Gates. I apologize. Antonio Gates, you're the man. I don't know how you're doing it. Okay, I think he's pushing 50. 3 touchdowns. I'm not doubting him. I don't know how he does it, but he's doing it. You have him. He's healthy. He plays. You put him in your lineup. That's what it comes down to. I don't know how to say. He's a red zone beast, Coach. How do you describe what's going on with Gates?
I feel like Phillip Rivers found himself last year, and through that, he's got more confidence in his passing. I mean, he's always a confident guy. Let's be serious for a second, Phillip Rivers. But I think the offense is a little bit more open to him where he's throwing the ball. Keenan Allen's been nursing an injury that now we're hearing more about in week 3. So maybe he knew that from practice, kind of on the DL, and thought, I got to go to my bread and butter over the years, which is Antonio Gates. And, maybe in the process we found a chink in the armor of the Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl winning defense. Maybe, their linebackers aren't as fast as they used to be. So could be an anomaly, but 3 touchdowns, you're not going to get that every week, of course, from the guy. But he's getting targeted heavily, and talent outperforms anything else. And he's obviously one of the more talented players at his position in the NFL.
I like it, Coach. All right, a couple other things I was a little wrong about. Jacksonville's DST against Washington, they let up a lot of points. Only 2 points in most formats. Really thought Washington was going to struggle. In fact, it looked like it was going to be a genius start when RG3 went down. I thought, wow, this is really going to work out. And Kirk Cousins to the rescue, takes off the jacket, has the S on his chest, and just does what Kirk Cousins does. Apparently, I don't know. Yeah. Jay Cutler, huge game against San Fran. I don't even want to talk about this, Coach. I know you don't want to talk about this.
Nope.
San Fran's home opener. I had them in all my Survivor leagues, Coach. I don't know how Jay Cutler did this, but 4 touchdowns. Brandon Marshall had one of the best catches I've seen, definitely the best all season. And, yeah, they got a huge win. Jay Cutler's the man. I like him this week a lot, though, I must say. All right, Coach, talking about this week, I'm going to throw out some names. Usually each of us give out some stardom and sit-ems. Instead, I'm going to throw some names at you, and you tell me if you start them or sit them this week, all right?
All right.
All right, Coach, let me throw out a couple of running backs at you first. I'm going to throw out 3 running backs. Kerry Robinson, Lamar Miller, Stephen Ridley. Let's start with Kerry Robinson. Start him or sit him?
He was on my stardom list, actually. You just talked about the season Mark Ingram was about to have, and my boy Kirky, as I like to call him, he's got confidence. Sean Payton believes in this guy. Last season, he had 20 touches each game, the last 2 games in the season, which includes a playoff game. So he likes to give him the ball. Robinson scored touchdown the first week. He's had about 6 to 10 touches a game, and I think this week he gets 18 plus, believe it or not, and he's going to get goal line touches. I think he's actually a must start and could be a running back number 2. You could argue with me to get him in there. So I think he's a must start.
All right, Coach. How about Lamar Miller?
You know what I call Lamar Miller? His nickname is Hot Garbage. I think Lamar Miller is not talented. He's had his opportunity before when Daniel Thomas was in Miami. When Reggie Bush was there, he was getting some touches. He's been there, and I'm a little over it. Maybe this week he could put something together against Kansas City at home because they don't have anything else back there. But Damian Williams was a guy I like, maybe not this week, but down the road to maybe take that spot from Lamar Miller, the rookie out of Miami. He used to play in Oklahoma, but suspended from the team for conduct reasons. Theme in the NFL right now, he'll fit right in. But Lamar Miller is not a guy I usually like to touch at all. And I think
Coach, let me put my 2 cents about Lamar Miller. Here's the thing. I never, ever, ever was a fan of Lamar Miller, and here's why. Lamar Miller just isn't a good NFL running back. How do you be projected to be the starting running back all season long? Okay, all preseason long. They bring in Noshawn. They still say you're the starter.
right.
How does a guy like Noshawn Moreno take your job? How does that happen? I mean, every time this guy Lamar Miller gets the opportunity to start, he just loses his job. How can you be confident with a guy like that?
I mean, Moreno did play the Patriots in Week 1, so it was easy to get 100-plus yards on them, right?
Okay, let's talk about something else, Coach. Speaking of the Patriots, Stephen Ridley. Start or sit Stephen Ridley?
Can't believe I'm saying this, but Oakland, home opener, New England, how do you not start the Riddler?
Easily.
Last week he looked good, 100 yards and a touchdown. I think he does it again this week, maybe even more. He's going to get the touches. Vereen's been nursing a shoulder injury in practice. Looks like it's going to be minor anyway, but I think Ridley's also a definite must-start with the matchup he's got. They're going to be winning big, and Bill Belichick likes to still run the ball with his starters no matter what the score is. So I think Ridley's got a big game against Oakland this week.
Never know what Belichick is going to do. Brandon Bolden could lead the game with rushing.
That's also a good point, but I think after last week's performance, he's going to ride the hot hand unless Ridley fumbles early, and we know what he'll do then if that occurs. So,
Coach, how about another guy? And this is a guy that was ranked pretty high in preseason rankings. Reggie Bush. What do you think about Reggie Bush this week?
I think Reggie Bush is on an offense that obviously is high octane with Matt Stafford leading the way there, and you got Calvin, so you got to pay attention as a linebacker and in the secondary to the receivers there. But Joique Bell is really the running back in Detroit, and I don't know why people aren't talking about him enough. He's the guy last year that was stealing time from Reggie Bush. They both had 800 yards receiving, but you would think Reggie Bush was the only guy that did that. Joique kind of fell under the radar unless you were really watching carefully. But I like Reggie Bush. I think he's not a bad play, but if I had to pick one or the other, I'm ringing the bell all day.
All right, Coach. All right, let's end it with just a couple of receivers. I'm going to throw out 2 receivers at you. One's one of our good friends' favorite guy, Golden Tate. The other one's Torrey Smith. Couple of one really sexy guy and one not so sexy guy. Let's start with Golden Tate. Start or sit Golden Tate this week?
The fact that Golden Tate played for Notre Dame, I already despise him. Let that be known. His arrogance level is way up here, whereas his talent level is right around here for the NFL. They don't match. Now, you can be arrogant as hell, like Brandon Marshall back in the day, but he backed it up, Every time Golden Tate gets a first down, he's doing a little dropping the ball, talking to play. I hate him. With that being said, though, this Green Bay secondary suspect. I think Golden Tate, they're gonna plan for Calvin. They play him twice a year. They're going to predict that, but I think Stafford's going to start looking his way. He's had 5 catches or more each game so far. I think this might be a game on Sunday where, people that have been starting on week in and week out so far are going to get rewarded for it. And I hate to say it, but he might be golden for you this weekend, even though he's a fighting Irish scumbag. I hate Golden Tate.
I think he would be perfect on a team like Dallas. I think he would fit right in, Coach, if Golden Tate for Dallas. All right, how about Torrey Smith? What do you think? What do you think about him? He's been struggling these past couple of weeks. It looks like it's the Steve Smith show. We love the AARP old guys. What do you think about Torrey Smith, though? Will he take his job back?
Torrey Smith? I don't see him anywhere. Do you, Andy? I don't think Joe Flacco does either. He's got 4 catches in 2 games with just 10 targets. And speaking of the old guys like Steve Smith or Dennis Pitta, who's not a guy I believe in either, like we talked about before, they've got 40-plus targets in 2 games already. Until Flacco starts looking his way, he's a guy I'm going to be sitting, believe it or not. Now, depending where you draft him, you might not have too many options there. But, Torrey Smith's a big boomer bust guy. He's either going to put up what he's been putting up for 2 weeks, or he's going to put up, 120 yards and a touchdown, or 95 and 2 touchdowns. Flacco looks for him long. But even so far this year, if you've been watching, I feel like Steve Smith's been playing that role and being the deep threat too. So for me, he's a sit. I just don't believe in Torrey Smith. He's nowhere to be found right now.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. I mean, this is a guy that was just not on any of my radars when it came draft season. I don't know why, but every year Torrey Smith is just never on my list of guys like that just end up on my roster. Just never, ever, ever seems to happen.
He's the guy that's
Just
ranked
does
high.
not
You
ever
just
see
kind
it.
of go past him.
Yeah, it's I don't know what it is. He's not on my do not draft list. I don't believe in that theory, but he's never just a guy that I'm like, oh, I hope Torrey Smith falls to me. It just never happens. I don't know why. I'm just not a fan of just Steve Smith. I can't understand it, man. He's a guy that just clearly plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he's just showing up to play.
He's Antonio Gates in it right now, so.
Yeah. Steve Smith's got a little more fire than Antonio Gates. Coach, let's
say.
talk about those Survivor League picks. I mean, I'm already knocked out of mine, unfortunately, week 2. This is like the third year in a row I'm knocked out before like week 5. But you know, I stand by my pick last week of San Fran. I know it didn't work out, but I really think it was a solid pick. Like, you know, everyone was picking Denver, and it looked like that KC Denver game could have really went KC, and then Green Bay almost lost that game. It looked like it could have been just a monster pick. And then with San Fran, the home opener against a team that just lost against the Bills at home, I don't know. But who do you like this week, Coach?
With stars that were injured.
Yeah, lots to go and play. Who are you picking in your Survivor league?
Well, last week I went Denver, so I'm 2-0 in my Survivor pools.
Nice.
This week, now there's a rule I follow. There's 2 teams I never touch: the Giants and the Raiders, and that's just historically has just done me well because they're so inconsistent. Even when they're terrible, they win some games, and when they're good, quote unquote, they lose some games. Yep. However, you know I'm not a Patriots fan, but New England home opener against Oakland, it's just 2 + 2 is 4 here. I think they're going to run the ball, they're going to drain the clock, and they're going to score points. Belichick does not let up, and the second that it's not going in that direction, which I don't think it will, he's going to reel him back in. I think it's, book it. I think this is the week, knock on wood, that it's an easy one. You go New England at home, easy as that. If you wanted, depending on if you pick New England or something like that, you can convince me into New Orleans at home, even though they're 0-2. Don't let that scare you. Or maybe Cincinnati against Tennessee, but I think New England for sure.
Yeah, don't overthink this one, folks. I mean, I like going against the grain. I think it's a winning strategy to kind of go against what everyone else is doing because the majority usually doesn't win. With this being said, it's a lock. I mean, sometimes you just can't ignore the lock, and this is a lock. Patriots will not lose at home this week against Oakland. They just aren't losing their home opener. So that's what it comes down to. So don't worry about it. Patriots are the lock. Coach, how about our Larry Fitz versus Michael Floyd battle? How we doing over there, Coach?
I mean, you got week 1, I got week 2, but overall Michael Floyd's looking good. He's starting to climb up the rankings. A lot of people out there are starting to like him for good reason, even though Drew Stanton's throwing the ball. We don't know maybe who he's going to prefer from practice week to week. But Michael Floyd's looking a little better than he did a couple weeks ago to me. I'm still going to ring true with my boy Larry Fitz because, Hall of Fame. You can't go against a Hall of Famer there. I think he's still going to put up a good season, but absolutely Floyd's winning the battle.
I am a huge fan of Larry Fitzgerald. I think he's one of the best pure athletes in the NFL. I think he's so underrated too. He's one of those guys that would rather win a meaningless game to put their record to 4-12 than to get 20 catches for 6 touchdowns in a game and just set a record. He's just that type of guy. The way he pass blocks, the way he just wants to win. He's just such a gamer. I love guys like that. Coach, I'm sporting the Larry Fitz today for you because I know it hurts. I know it hurts to pick a guy and just I know you won last week, but I'm winning overall PPR.
Either way, no one's going to do anything against San Francisco this weekend, so we'll be a stalemate again. All
right, Coach. we got some questions here. Let's start off with a first. We had a question from Ken Baum last night in regard to the Thursday night game. Vincent Jackson, who hasn't been very productive, or Wes Welker, who hasn't played since last season. Who would we go with, Coach?
I'm gonna pretend like I didn't even watch the game last night. I didn't. I would have said Vincent Jackson. I would have said expect a big game. Atlanta's one of the worst, if not the worst, defenses in the NFL and a high-octane offense, so they're going to be moving the ball a lot. And even though Tampa Bay is 0-2, they lost some close games. They showed they can move the ball. I thought this would be Vincent Jackson's week to boom. And, he didn't. He got a garbage time touchdown that made his scoring for the week be okay, and that's the advice I gave to Ken, was to play Vincent Jackson, and that's who I would have played. And if I did have him on one team, and I did play him. Touchdown was nice, but 2 catches for, I think, 15 yards. That's not what you drafted him for at the level that you did, or the round that you did. I think Wes Welker could produce. I think Peyton Manning's got the stick it to him factor, where now that he's back playing against Seattle, that he'll go, I want to give Wes the ball. But I would have gone Vincent Jackson all day, I have to be honest.
Coach, I'm going to back you up on that 100%. I mean, you drafted this guy in the 3rd round. Wes Welker's coming back from a couple of screw looses in his head, and he's facing Seattle, who every week they seem to knock out somebody else, like a star. So I completely stand by what you're saying. I would have for sure put V Jackson there. And he had an okay, respectable game. I mean, it would have been nice if he had double digits, but he had a touch and 2 catches, So he got you 9 points in a PPR. So it could have been a lot worse. It looked like it was going to be a lot worse.
Yes, it did.
Another one, Coach. Jay Roslin asked, James Jones versus Aaron Dobson versus Latavius Murray versus Benny Cunningham versus Johnny Stewart. He needs 2, 1 point for every 10 return yards. So that kind of bumps up Benny Cunningham's value. He needs at least one of those 2 to be a running back. Go ahead, Coach.
I think it's kind of a no-brainer, to be honest with you. I'm going to say James Jones for what we talked about at the top of the show. How do you not start a guy that's got 2 touchdowns and almost 100 yards already this season, and going into a game where they're going to be throwing the ball, they're going to be behind in New England? So I think James Jones is your definitive must-start. And running back scenario or not, I would have said the same thing. Jonathan Stewart, I think Carolina, he's looked healthy. He's got the end zone last week. They are playing Pittsburgh on Sunday night, and he's a guy that, D'Angelo's not really ready to go. He's questionable, but I don't believe in it. And if he does, it's going to be limited, as kind of how it always is in Carolina. Tolbert's nursing an injury. The 10 return yards makes it interesting, like you said, with Cunningham. But I think I'd regret it if I didn't start Jay Stu with my boy James Jones. What do you think?
Coach, I'm going to back you up. Sometimes I dislike it when we agree on everything, but I think with these questions it's important that we do agree, and we honestly do on this one. James Jones stands out to me of this list. I don't know Aaron Dobson's role. Latavius Murray, MJD might even play, so ruling him out. And so really it comes between James Jones, Cunningham, and Jonathan Stewart. James Jones just kind of leaps out on the page at me. They're going to have to throw against New England. I don't think Revis is just going to completely shut down James Jones. I don't think he's going to be in that role where he needs to shut down a guy.
Mm-hmm. Mentally not going to be there.
I think James Jones could be good and maybe get some garbage time production. So it's between Cunningham and Jay Stu. I can understand either way because the return yards is kind of like one of those things where he's going to get you 5 or 6 points regardless of whatever he does on the field. So I like the lock points. But you got to go with Jonathan Stewart. And like you said, they're playing Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has looked like one of the worst defenses. I can't believe I'm saying this. 10 years ago, that's unheard of. But
Brian Hoyer and the Browns put up 30 on them.
They really are, Coach. I can't explain it. Why is Pittsburgh just not playing Pittsburgh football?
It's got to be something in the water. I don't know. Big Ben's taking the wives out to dinner everywhere. I don't know.
It's something in the water.
So I actually got a question today, too, from my boss, Mr. Aaron Dashian. Huh?
Go ahead.
And he's got to pick 2 of these guys. So I'm going to ask you, Sammy Watkins, Lamar Miller, Terrance West.
Ooh, Coach. All right. I think out of those, did he say PPR or anything like that?
Half-point PPR.
I think you got to put Sammy Watkins in there. He looks like he's just being the man. I thought he was a little more banged up than it really seems like he is, but he's just a freak athlete. He's going to be a star down the road. Mm-hmm. He's just going to be awesome. He's going to be a guy that's going to just have an amazing season next year. I know he is. So Lamar Miller or Terrance West? I can't choose Lamar Miller, Coach. I'm not a fan. He's a ham and egger. He's nothing special to me. Terrance West, all the guy does is just when he got the opportunity, he just ran down their throat. So, Coach, I got to go with Terrance West. I think he's going to be the guy.
I 100% agree with Sammy Watkins, and I think with Lamar Miller, Terrance West, I think I'd go Lamar Miller this week. But it comes down to your fantasy philosophy when you're in a bundle. Do you go with the guy who's more talented, which in my opinion is obviously West, or do you play the matchup, which is Lamar Miller versus Kansas City at home? For me, in this instance, I'm going to go with the matchup and go Lamar Miller, even though he's hot garbage, like I said earlier.
Coach, really quickly, let's talk about a couple of waiver guys this week, a couple of popular guys that went off the waiver wire. I'm going to throw some names at you. How about who do you like more this week? This week of these three guys, Matt Asiata, Mohamed Sanu, Kniles Davis, all assuming that they're starters, that the guys who are ahead of them do not play. Who do you like out of those three? Rank them.
If I'm assuming that their starters aren't playing, I'm starting off with Kniles Davis. He's got Alex Smith check down city to him. That's at least 5 catches. He's going to be running the ball on Andy Reid's offense. He's getting the goal line touches. Last week he had a couple touchdowns, didn't have the yardage, but he's going to get the opportunity again. And he's a guy that's confident, playing in the playoffs last year, plenty of touches his last few seasons. I think Kniles Davis is top of the list. For me, I believe in Asiata out of Minnesota. He looked good against New England. He scored on a nice little screen pass. I like Mohamed Sanu as a player. I'm actually a fan of his, to be honest, out of Rutgers, even when he was in college. But A.J. Green's coming back, and Cincinnati is starting to look like they're going to be running the ball a little bit.
If A.J. Green doesn't come back, Coach, I'm saying if A.J. Green doesn't come back, assuming if AP doesn't play, if Jamal Charles doesn't play, and A.J. Green
even with that, I think that they're running the ball a lot more in Cincinnati than they're used to. And with Jeremy Hill there, backing up Giovanni Bernard, I think I still put Sanu last in that list. It's close between him and Asiata, but I definitely start number 1 on that list.
Coach, we finally disagree. If Andy Dolan is playing quarterback, he's going to throw the ball a ton, and he's going to throw to his number 1 target. And if it's not A.J. Green, it's going to be Mohamed Sanu. If A.J. Green does not play, you start Mohamed Sanu over a lot. I would put him in my top 20 even if A.J. Green does not start. I would probably put the ass man Asiata third. I'd put him last on that list. It sucks, though. It's really undeserving when you think about it, Coach, because every time the guy starts, he does the job.
He does.
And so it's really not fair, and everyone always makes the excuse, oh, it was garbage, but he gets the stats every game he plays. Is it fair to just push him under the rug?
I don't think so. I think Asiata is a guy that if you have him on your team because, like literally you had Adrian Peterson. That's another thing. So if you had Adrian Peterson, you don't have your first-round pick. So he's a guy that you most, even if you don't want to play, that you have to play to get that production that you drafted for. And with Asiata, he's like you said, he gets discredited a lot, but he's a guy that is there and he's ready and he performs each time he's been out there.
All right, last one, Coach, really quick. These 3 quarterbacks, who's not getting the roster spot on your team? Ben Roethlisberger, Kirk Cousins, Jake Locker. Who's getting cut from your team?
I think it's got to be Jake Locker. Big Ben's starting to look a little vintage, and I like what he's doing so far. Antonio Brown and Marcus Wheaton, and that strong running game is what makes Ben dangerous because people start lowering the box, and he can throw the ball and escape sacks. So Ben's a guy I want to keep. And Kirk Cousins, I'll keep it brief. He should be a starter in the NFL. I think his time. I know last week was against Jacksonville. But look out for Kirk Cousins. Whether he's in Washington next year or not, he's starting the NFL moving forward.
You love Kirk Cousins. Wow. I think I'd put Ben last. I really do. I know Big Ben's so reliable, but I think I put him last. I think Jake Locker's finally falling into his groove, and while he's healthy, he's worth a roster spot. And Kirk Cousins, I like you said, I can't explain it. The guy just, when he goes in, he just does it. Mm-hmm. And it's not even like ugly. He does it pretty. Mm-hmm. I don't know. He just throws routes. He throws up to these backup guys like the Pauls and the freaking Santana Mosses, and he makes them look like superstars. I don't know.
And if you believe in Andy Dalton and the Bengals, Jay Gruden's the coach. It's that system that we came to love. So I think Kirk Cousins lets it fly.
All right, Coach. That's going to wrap it up for Week 3 of the Fantasy Life.
I got to throw in one thing before we wrap.
Go ahead.
I have a bold prediction that will outdo my Dougie one.
Oh, nice. Let's hear it.
I have 2. Real quick. Danny Woodhead outperforms fantasy production out of Donald Brown this week. And even bolder, Trent Richardson scores this week. Mark it. Trent Richardson finds the pay dirt. That's all I got.
My bold prediction this week is that I'm going to win my first game in my Rhode Island Elite Fantasy Football League. I'm going to go 1-2. I feel it. That's my bold prediction. No. No, my bold prediction is going to be I think Tom Brady's going to have a monster week. I just can't see him just not producing 3 games in a row. Home opener, I think he's just going to put on a show in Gillette. I really do. I think no one's going to see it coming. Everyone's going to expect the run, and he's just going to throw it down their throat. I think Oakland's going to just get exposed, and I think Brady's just going to have a monster game. Maybe he'll do his 1-yard touchdown run that he loves to do also. Going Tom Brady, big time.
All right.
All right, Coach, this is going to do it for week 3 of the Fantasy Life of the Big AC. Coach, anything for the fans going into week 3?
Still looking for Torrey Smith. Not sure where he is, but
Coach,
that's all I got.
Props and everything. Gosh, prop of the year so far. You win. I'm gonna figure out something. I don't know. All I got is bobbleheads behind me and whack pictures of Derek Jeter. I don't know. All right, Coach. I'm going to let you go, but thank you so much for tuning in this week, folks. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments below for either me or Coach. Coach, have a good night. We'll see you next week on The Fantasy Life.